Some cars are meant to go down in history as legends, but others, well, they're better off forgotten. The 1980s were a tough time for GM, and some of their cars from this era were downright disastrous. But how could a Cadillac, a symbol of luxury, turn into a cheap imitation? And what happened to Buick's once great reputation? Well, let's find out. Let's start with the Oldsmobile Delta 88 diesel. Now, this car has a reputation for being one of the biggest letdowns of the 80s, and it's easy to see why. General Motors decided to modify a gasoline engine to run on diesel, but the result was a mess of design problems. One of the biggest flaws was the head bolt configuration, which just couldn't handle the higher compression of diesel engines. This caused head bolts to fail, leaving many Delta 88 diesel cars stranded shortly after being sold. Things didn't get any better with the fuel quality. The lack of a proper water separator meant that the fuel often got contaminated, leading to even more reliability issues. Owners, hoping to fix things, started adding extra chemicals to their fuel, but this only made the situation worse, damaging the engine even more. To top it off, the car's automatic transmission, the THM200, also had its fair share of problems, making the driving experience even worse. But when a car's reputation is in ruins, can even a complete redesign save it? Well, GM did try to fix the issues, redesigning the engine and making other adjustments, but the damage to the Delta 88 diesel's reputation was already done. Sales dropped fast as people lost confidence in the car, and eventually it was discontinued after only a few years. But while the Delta 88 diesel struggled with reliability, the Chevrolet Camaro Iron Duke took a different route, offering an underwhelming driving experience that left fans scratching their heads. This car is often remembered as one of the biggest disappointments of the 80s, especially for fans of the Camaro's performance legacy. Instead of the powerful engines that the Camaro was known for, this model was equipped with a 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine that cranked out only 90 horsepower. For a car marketed as a sporty coupe, that just didn't cut it. The result? Sluggish acceleration, with 0 to 60 miles per hour times creeping close to 20 seconds. To put it simply, drivers found themselves getting passed by just about everything on the road, including school buses. But the disappointment didn't stop there. The Iron Duke engine was paired with an outdated, low-tech 3-speed automatic transmission, which only made matters worse. Rather than feeling like the performance powerhouse it was supposed to be, the Camaro felt more like an economy car. For traditional Camaro fans, it was a huge letdown. Looking back, the 1982 Iron Duke Camaro is often seen as a major misstep in the Camaro's history. It did little to live up to the expectations of performance and excitement that the Camaro name had built over the years, ultimately tarnishing its reputation. But you won't believe the car sitting at the top of this list. Any guesses? Keep watching to find out. And here's something you didn't expect. Cadillac's attempt to attract younger buyers ended up appealing to more older customers looking for a smaller Cadillac. The car's front-wheel drive setup and controversial bustle-back design didn't sit well with everyone, and although it was marketed as a luxury car, it missed the mark in terms of execution. One of the major issues was the Oldsmobile diesel V8 engine, which was a disaster. It had constant reliability problems like blown head gaskets and corrosion. In fact, this engine couldn't even pass California's strict emissions tests, making it a huge headache for owners. On top of that, the alternative V8 6.4 engine, which featured a complicated variable displacement system, was a performance nightmare. It was slow and unresponsive to the point where many owners simply disabled it. Inside the Seville, things weren't much better. The interior used cheap materials that didn't match Cadillac's luxury image, making the car feel less premium than expected. As a result, the sales dropped dramatically, going from nearly 40,000 units in the first year to less than 20,000 by 1982. The combination of mechanical issues and a failure to connect with its intended audience left the Cadillac Seville with a reputation for being one of the decade's biggest disappointments. But the Seville wasn't the only car from GM's stable facing criticism. The Chevrolet Citation, with its numerous issues and lackluster performance, became one of the most notorious models of the decade. This car holds a spot as one of the most notorious cars of the 80s, and for good reason. It started with a lot of hype, but quickly earned a bad reputation thanks to a series of major flaws. Owners reported rust problems, engine fires, and even braking issues. The braking system in particular was a disaster. At times it would lock up unexpectedly, causing the car to lose control during heavy braking. This led to the Citation being one of the most recalled vehicles in history, with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration receiving numerous complaints. Even though it sold over 800,000 units in its first year, consumer trust quickly vanished as the car's problems became more widely known. By 1985, sales had dropped drastically, and the Citation was eventually discontinued. The interior quality didn't help its case either. The materials used felt cheap, and the assembly was low-grade, with many parts failing soon after purchase. All these mechanical and quality issues hurt GM's reputation badly. It wasn't just the Citation that suffered. It led to a lot of people to avoid buying any GM cars altogether, marking the Citation as a major blunder in the brand's history. And speaking of blunders, the Cadillac Cimarron took GM's struggles to a new level, offering a compact car that was far from the luxury experience buyers expected from the brand. The Cimarron is widely considered one of the biggest failures of the 1980s, mainly because it didn't live up to the Cadillac name. Marketed as a compact luxury car, it was actually just a rebadged Chevrolet Cavalier. This move seriously hurt its credibility, as it didn't have the luxury or performance expected from a Cadillac. The base model's engine was underpowered. But how slow can a so-called luxury car really be? Would you believe over 13 seconds just to hit 60 miles per hour? This was far from what people expected from a brand known for powerful, smooth rides. Though Cadillac tried to improve the Cimarron over the years, adding a V6 engine and making some design tweaks, it was too little, too late. The car's reputation was already damaged, and sales tanked. From an expected 80,000 units in its first year, it barely managed 6,000 in its final year. Critics slammed the car for lacking the luxury features and build quality Cadillac was known for, with many seeing it as a cheap imitation of European luxury sedans. But Buick also took a hit to its reputation, plagued by mechanical problems and lackluster interior quality, making it another example of GM's woes during this era. The Buick Skylark is often seen as one of the low points of the 1980s for Buick, and it's not hard to understand why. The car was plagued by a mix of reliability problems, poor performance, and weak build quality. Owners frequently complained about mechanical failures, especially with the fuel system and electrical components, which led to several recalls over the years. The engine options, particularly the base 2.5-liter Iron Duke, were a big letdown. It lacked power, leaving drivers feeling disappointed with a driving experience that was anything but exciting. On top of performance issues, the Skylark had safety concerns like rear brake lockup that could make driving dangerous in certain conditions. Inside the car, things weren't much better. The interior was built with cheap materials, falling short of the comfort and durability people expected from a compact car. All these problems combined to give the Skylark a damaged reputation. Now, from one failed compact car to another, the Pontiac Phoenix was no exception, offering a driving experience that was underpowered and unreliable, contributing to its infamous status. This car is often remembered as one of the biggest disappointments of the 80s. Essentially a rebadged Chevrolet Citation, it inherited many of its siblings' flaws, especially when it came to reliability. Owners reported frequent mechanical problems, from the brakes to the fuel system and transmission. The Phoenix came with a clunky 4-speed manual transmission and an underpowered Iron Duke 4-cylinder engine, which made the car feel sluggish and far from enjoyable to drive. Inside, things weren't much better. The interior was uncomfortable, with cheap materials that didn't last long. The cabin was uninspiring, and the AM radio had trouble picking up stations, even when the car was just a few miles out. This all contributed to a driving experience that was neither reliable nor exciting. The combination of a weak engine, poor build quality, and mechanical failures made the Phoenix a car that was often considered used up after just a few years. So it's safe to say that the Pontiac Phoenix didn't live up to the hype, and for many, it's a reminder of what went wrong in that decade. Now, can you figure out which car takes the final spot? Here's a hint. It's a Chevrolet. Any guesses? Surprise, surprise, it's the 1980 Chevrolet Corvette 305 California, often remembered as one of the biggest letdowns of the decade, mainly due to its lack of performance. To meet California's strict emissions rules, GM put a 305 cubic inch V8 engine in this model, which only pushed out 180 horsepower. That's a big step down from the standard 350 cubic inch engine found in Corvettes in other states, which delivered around 190 horsepower. The result? A sluggish, underwhelming driving experience that left Corvette fans disappointed. Things didn't get any better with the automatic transmission, which further hurt acceleration and overall performance. The Corvette was supposed to be all about speed and excitement, but this model didn't live up to that reputation. Critics and buyers were left disappointed, and it showed in the sales. Only 3,221 were ever sold. That makes it one of the rarest Corvettes, but unfortunately, also one of the most infamous. If you enjoyed this deep dive into GM's biggest blunders, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There's plenty more automotive stories coming your way. Until next time.